Hello, welcome to Salt and Light Canning. I'm Jessica and this is my kitchen. And today we are going to be doing a meal starter for like red beans and rice. Because it's fall and we're all these warm, comforting, happy meals that we share with our families. So for me, it's easier if I take the time in the fall to do meals with like beans and meat and things, because it's not garden season, right? So it gives me the opportunity to be able to do other things. So we're going to get a meal starter going. So I'm starting with a number 10 can of tomato sauce. I'm going to carefully put it in this pot, I hope, without splattering everywhere. Okay, that wasn't so bad. So anytime you find like number 10 cans of tomatoes on sale, I recommend purchasing them because they are great for doing meal starters. I also have about half a cup of W sauce that I can't pronounce. And I've tried. I really have. It doesn't work, okay? Half a cup of that. And then I have 7 quarts of stock. This is a mixture of chicken stock and turkey stock. And I'm also going to add some minced garlic. You don't have to, you could do whatever garlic you want, or you don't have to add garlic. Seasoning is your preference, okay? 2 heaping spoonfuls. Well, like 3 heaping spoonfuls. Get that a good mix. I'm going to get this heating up on the stove. I'm also going to add about probably 5 quarts of water, filtered water, to this, and clean up my mess, and I'll be back when I'm doing something else. All right, so our sauce is heating up on the stove, and now I'm going to put my beans in my jars. These are just little red beans. I soak them overnight. Anytime I do beans where I'm adding seasoning or sauce or whatever, I make sure to soak them. Honestly, I do not make sure to soak them if I just plan on just doing plain beans, but you do you. I'm going to fill my jars to half full. You really don't want to do more than about half full, because the beans, as they cook, are going to expand, and you want the best opportunity for your beans to cook and your jars to seal. And I've said this before, but canning our dry beans is the best way for me to ensure that we use them. Otherwise, we just don't use them. But having them ready to go on the shelf, we use them. And they're delicious. I'm going to get all my jars full of beans, and then we'll add some other stuff. And now I'm going to add some flavor, add some seasoning, because beans by themselves are pretty bland. You need to add some seasoning. So I personally really do like using dehydrated vegetables in my canning. I think they hold up really well and they add a lot of flavor. So I'm using about a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half of dehydrated bell peppers. And if you're wondering, this is about 6 pounds of beans. I'm also going to add about a tablespoon of onion per jar. This is just dehydrated onion. You can use regular onion, you can use onion powder. Use what you have, use what you enjoy using. This is just what I have. I'm also going to do about half a bay leaf in each jar. If you don't like bay, then leave it out. I like it, so about half a bay leaf per jar. Now I have some sweet paprika. I'm going to add probably about, it's like 3/4 of a teaspoon. Now I have some Cajun seasoning. I apparently need to take the seal off. I'm going to put about a teaspoon per jar. You can too. You can absolutely just leave the seasoning out and then add it when you make your meal. But I really like how the seasonings infuse into the beans, and they just make your meal just wonderful. So then also I'm going to add a little bit of this barbecue seasoning because I like it. Please just do what you like. There's salt in this one, so I'm not going to add extra salt. And there's pepper in everything I just put in the jar. So now I'm going to put my seasonings away and I'm going to get my sauce to put in my jars. I have my beans in the jar, I have my seasonings in the jar, I have my sauce right here ready to go. So I'm going to fill my jars to 1 inch of headspace, and because it's tomatoes, I'm going to be very careful to not go over 1 inch of headspace. So anytime you have tomatoes in your canning, they expand. So you want to make sure that you don't go over your 1 inch of headspace. This already smells just wonderful. I'm very excited to have this on the shelf. And debubble, 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 debubble. Going to wipe the rim of my jar with a little bit of vinegar. Make sure everything's really clean. Want to give our jars the best opportunity to seal. And then I line up my lid. You do not have to. I do. And just to fingertip tight. Now, I want to encourage you, don't be afraid. I buy in bulk for my pantry because it's cheaper to buy in bulk for my pantry. But it's not out of fear that I store beans and rice in my pantry. I store beans and rice in my pantry because we eat beans and rice. Okay, if we didn't eat beans and rice, I wouldn't store it. But don't be afraid. God is very clear that, all these troubles and stuff, they're not going to come near your door as a child of God, right? Pestilence can't set foot inside your house, all right? And Christians, we should be very excited to be living in the last days. That's so exciting to know that the Lord's coming back. So thankful for the time that we live in and everything He has in store for us. It's awesome. But don't be afraid, right? The world should probably be afraid, but children of God should never be afraid, all right? But we can make delicious food out of what's in our pantry and be good stewards of what He's given us. And sometimes that means just making delicious meal starters for red beans and rice. So wonderful. Also, if you have beans that are maybe a couple of years old and you have trouble getting them to soften, I have found that no matter what, when you can your beans, that they soften and they cook really, really well. So even if they're a few years old. Anyways, I'm going to keep filling jars. I'll be back when I'm putting them in the canner. My canners are full and I turned the stove on. I'm going to put my lids on. My stove is not on high because, again, I have tomatoes. So it's not on high. Going to bring everything up to temperature slowly and let these process. I'm going to vent out of the vent right here for 10 minutes. When I have a steady stream of steam, I will start my timer for 10 minutes. Then I will put my weight on, and when my gauge gets up to 15 pounds of pressure, I will time my processing time for 90 minutes. For beans, you need to do 90 minutes for quart jars. And then when it's all done, I will turn everything off and let our canners come down from pressure slowly, naturally on their own. And I'll be back when I'm taking them out. Well, we've had some issues. So this canner is still going. Actually, my gauge broke. This is why it's important to have a couple extra parts laying around. So we had to restart processing time on this canner, but this one is done, so we're going to take it out. And I do have some siphoning, which I always do with tomatoes. It doesn't seem to matter what I do. That doesn't look bad. These are going to sit right here and just seal and have a good night. And tomorrow I will get everything washed up and put in the pantry. But I want to encourage you, if you're building a pantry, do it because it's what you want to do to provide for your family. If you're doing anything out of fear, you need to stop and take a minute and reevaluate why you're doing it. But fear is not a good motive, okay? So don't be afraid. Just don't be afraid. Whatever happens in the world, including having a little puppy in here who's very excited that mom's in the kitchen, whatever is happening in the world, don't be afraid. Okay? God has not given you the spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. Okay? Be so blessed. Know that you're loved and be a blessing to someone else. I'll see you in the next video.